polished log of light orange wood, with subtle vertical grain lines shimmering faintly when lightning streaked across the sky. His large droopy brown eyes shifted nervously as he walked along the riverbank, noticing how the water had already begun to swell. His long skinny legs and oversized wooden feet splashed lightly in the mud, while his cartoonish wooden arms dangled at his side, swinging nervously. He had seen storms before, but this one felt different. The river, usually calm and gentle, now churned with alarming speed, its waters climbing up the banks, foaming like a wild beast freed from chains. The wooden creature's thick curved eyebrows furrowed with concern, and his goofy, slouched posture straightened slightly as he realized that something dangerous was about to happen. His expressive mouth twisted into a worried frown. Then, over the roar of the rising current, he heard it, a sharp, desperate bark. The sound pierced through the thunder and wind, making his wooden heart almost leap out of his chest. His head snapped toward the sound and his droopy eyes widened. Somewhere near the edge of the river, a small, helpless creature was in trouble. Following the cries, he stumbled over branches and muddy patches, his oversized feet squelching with every step. The bark grew louder, more frantic, and soon his worried gaze fell upon a heartbreaking sight. A tiny puppy, soaked and trembling, was clinging to a half-submerged log at the edge of the river. The poor animal's little paws scratched helplessly against the slick wood, its terrified eyes pleading for help as the rushing current threatened to pull it under. The wooden creature froze, his goofy posture stiffened with dread. His droopy eyes filled with urgency, and his expressive wooden mouth opened slightly as though whispering a silent promise to himself. "I must save this puppy." The storm intensified, rain hammering down in sheets that blurred the forest into streaks of gray and green. The river roared even louder, foamy waves crashing against the log where the puppy clung desperately. The wooden creature's long thin arms twitched as though filled with energy, his cartoonish hands curling into fists of determination. Without wasting another moment, he splashed closer, his feet sinking into the muddy riverbank. His light orange polished wooden body gleamed with streaks of rainwater, every grain line now etched with purpose. His goofy, melancholic posture transformed into that of a reluctant hero. He leaned forward, his thick curved eyebrows now set in fierce focus. As another bolt of lightning split the sky, the puppy whimpered loudly, slipping slightly from the log. The wooden creature gasped, his large eyes widening in terror. He knew he couldn't waste another second. If he hesitated, the puppy would be swept away. The rain poured, the river growled, and thunder echoed across the valley. The wooden creature took a deep breath, his wooden chest swelling as though he carried not just his own courage but the weight of the puppy's fragile life. The rescue was about to begin. The wooden creature's droopy eyes locked onto the trembling puppy. The storm had turned the gentle river into a monster, and the foamy waters clawed at the edges of the bank, desperate to swallow everything in its path. The puppy's paws were sliding on the wet log, and with every second, it lost more of its grip. The creature's cartoonish wooden hands trembled, his thick eyebrows arching with fear. Lightning cracked overhead, and for an instant, the entire valley was lit with an eerie glow. In that flash of brightness, he saw the terror in the puppy's eyes, those tiny brown orbs staring right at him, begging silently for help. His goofy, slouched posture straightened, and he felt a strange surge of courage, as if the storm itself had transferred its power into his wooden body. He lunged forward, splashing knee-deep into the water. His oversized wooden feet pressed hard against the mud, struggling to keep him stable against the pulling current. Rainwater streamed down his polished wooden surface, dripping along the vertical grain lines of his body. His expressive mouth gritted into a determined line. "Hold on, little one," he shouted, though his voice was barely audible over the roar of the river. The puppy yelped as its front paw slipped, dangling over the edge of the log. The current immediately tried to snatch it away. The wooden creature gasped, his droopy eyes widening in horror. His long wooden arms shot forward, stretching toward the puppy. His fingers brushed against the wet fur, but the current surged again, shoving the log deeper into the rushing stream. For a brief, terrifying second, the puppy disappeared beneath the waves. The wooden creature's heart pounded like thunder. He threw himself even deeper into the water, the current crashing against his skinny legs and nearly sweeping him off balance. His curved eyebrows knitted tightly, and his expressive mouth opened in a desperate cry. Then, just as the waves parted slightly, the puppy's head popped up, sputtering and barking weakly. The wooden creature dove forward, his long cartoonish hand wrapping tightly around the pup's scruff. His grip was shaky but firm, his wooden fingers digging gently into the wet fur. The puppy whimpered, water dripping from its tiny nose, but the creature held it close to his wooden chest, shielding it from the raging storm. His goofy slouch returned for a moment as he sagged with relief. His droopy eyes softened, filled with both sorrow and hope. But the river was not finished with them yet. The current surged stronger, tugging at his legs like invisible ropes. He stumbled, nearly dropping the puppy. His oversized wooden feet dug into the mud, but he could feel himself slipping. The log, the riverbank, everything around him seemed to melt into chaos. Thunder roared once more and rain lashed harder than ever. The wooden creature realized the truth. Rescuing the puppy was only the beginning. If he didn't escape the raging river soon, both of them would be swallowed whole. The river screamed around them like a furious beast. The wooden creature's slouched body straightened as he battled the raging waters, holding the trembling puppy close. His long arms wrapped protectively around the tiny creature, shielding it from the icy spray. The pup whimpered softly, its eyes shut tight, trusting the strange wooden figure completely. But every step was a struggle. The current slammed into his thin wooden legs, trying to knock him down. His oversized feet squelched in the mud, losing their grip again and again. Each stumble made his droopy eyes widen with panic, but his eyebrows bent into determination. He could not fail now. The rain lashed against his smooth wooden surface, dripping like tears across his grain lines. His expressive mouth twisted into a grimace as he planted one foot forward, then another. The muddy bank seemed impossibly far away, and the waves kept rising, curling around his waist, threatening to drag him under. The puppy whimpered again, pawing weakly at his chest. He lowered his goofy wooden face to meet its frightened eyes. "I've got you," he whispered, though the storm tried to swallow his words. For a moment he forgot the danger. His droopy eyes softened with compassion, and the corners of his mouth curved into a tender smile. Then, without warning, a huge wave crashed against him. It slammed into his chest like a hammer, forcing him backward. His arms flailed, his oversized feet slipped, and the world spun in chaos. The puppy yelped in terror as they both plunged beneath the foamy surface. The cold water engulfed him, filling his wooden ears with muffled roars. His eyes stung, but through the blur he saw the puppy thrashing desperately in his arms. He kicked with all his strength, his long skinny legs fighting to push them upward. His curved eyebrows tightened, his goofy posture stiffened into resolve. Finally, his head broke through the surface, gasping for air. He sputtered, shaking water from his expressive wooden mouth, and lifted the puppy high above his head to keep it dry. The tiny creature coughed weakly but clung to his wooden fingers, refusing to let go. The river, however, was not done. The current spun him like a leaf, dragging him further downstream. Trees blurred past on the bank, their roots clawing at the water like dark fingers. His oversized feet scrambled for purchase, but the mud slid beneath him. Still he refused to let go of the puppy. His droopy eyes narrowed with fierce determination, and his mouth curled into a grimace of defiance. "Not today," he growled, though the storm swallowed his voice. He spotted a half-submerged tree trunk lodged near the bank. If he could reach it, maybe he could pull himself and the puppy out. With all the strength his wooden body could muster, he leaned forward, pushing through the raging water. His arms stretched, his cartoonish fingers clawing at the wet bark. The puppy barked weakly as if encouraging him. His eyes widened with hope. Just a little more and they might survive this storm. The current dragged the wooden creature relentlessly, but his droopy eyes fixed firmly on the half-submerged tree trunk ahead. His goofy slouched body straightened with urgency, and he clutched the puppy tighter against his wooden chest. Every step forward felt like pushing through a wall of liquid stone. His long thin arms reached out desperately, fingers stretching as though they were made of vines. With a final surge, his oversized cartoon feet slammed against the muddy riverbed, propelling him forward. His wooden hand latched onto the tree trunk, his fingers digging into the wet, slippery bark. His thick eyebrows furrowed in determination, and his expressive mouth opened in a gasp of relief. The puppy whimpered softly, pressing its tiny body against his chest. Its fur dripped with rainwater, its eyes wide with exhaustion. The wooden creature patted the pup gently with one long hand, murmuring reassurance. "Safe, we're safe," he whispered, though the storm still screamed around them. But safety was only temporary. The trunk groaned as the current battered it, threatening to rip it free from the mud. The wooden creature glanced downstream. Sharp rocks jutted out like teeth, waiting hungrily. If they lost their grip, both he and the puppy would be shredded by the unforgiving current. His goofy slouch returned as exhaustion weighed on him, but he shook his head, droplets of water flying from his rounded wooden top. His droopy eyes narrowed with resolve. He had to climb. Carefully he lifted the puppy onto the crook of the tree trunk. The pup whimpered, claws scrabbling against the slick surface, but it stayed put. With both hands free, the wooden creature hauled himself upward, muscles straining against the force of the river. His oversized wooden feet kicked and slipped, but eventually he managed to perch beside the trembling puppy. They sat together, rain hammering down, the river raging below. His goofy mouth curled into a weak smile as he stroked the pup's wet fur. See? We're not done yet. Still, the trunk shook under the storm's fury. He knew they couldn't stay there. If the water rose any higher, the tree would break free, carrying them into the jaws of disaster. The wooden creature lifted his gaze to the far bank. Through sheets of rain he could just make out a rocky slope leading upward to safety. His droopy eyes widened with hope. That was their escape, if he could reach it. The wooden creature stared at the rocky slope across the river. His goofy posture slouched further as doubt crept into his wooden heart. How could he possibly make it there with the puppy in his arms, fighting both the storm and the current? The puppy barked weakly as if sensing his hesitation. Its tiny paws pressed against his wooden chest, eyes filled with desperate trust. His droopy eyes softened, then sharpened with resolve. He couldn't let the pup down, not after coming this far. He tucked the puppy securely under one arm, wrapping his long wooden fingers protectively around it. With his free arm he reached forward, grabbing onto the next branch sticking out of the water. His oversized wooden feet pushed off the trunk and he lunged forward. The current roared, slamming into his side, nearly ripping him away. His eyebrows bent in fierce concentration, his expressive mouth gritting as he pulled himself closer to the riverbank. Inch by inch, he crawled along the branches and debris, battling both exhaustion and fear. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating the puppy's frightened face. The wooden creature whispered encouragement, though his voice trembled. Almost there, just a little more. Suddenly, a massive wave surged, smashing into him. The puppy yelped, water engulfing both of them. The wooden creature tightened his grip, refusing to let go. His goofy body spun sideways, slamming painfully into the trunk. His droopy eyes widened with shock, but he forced himself back up. The slope was only a few feet away now. Summoning every ounce of strength, he stretched his long arms outward, cartoonish fingers clawing into the rocky surface. His oversized feet slipped in the current, but his hands held firm. With a mighty heave, he dragged himself and the puppy onto the slippery rocks. For the first time his wooden body felt heavy, slouched with exhaustion. He collapsed against the slope, the puppy pressed against his chest. Both of them shivered, soaked to the bone, but the wooden creature slumped against the rocks, his goofy posture sagging. His droopy eyes closed briefly, exhausted from the ordeal. The puppy nestled against him, shivering but alive. For a fleeting moment he thought they were safe. But the river had other plans. With a thunderous roar, another surge of water slammed against the slope, spraying mud and debris. The rocks beneath him trembled, cracking under the relentless force. His eyes shot open in panic, eyebrows lifting in alarm. The puppy barked in fear, its tiny body pressed tighter against his chest. The wooden creature's expressive mouth twisted into a grimace. He had to climb higher, now. He staggered to his oversized feet, lifting the puppy gently onto his shoulder. His long wooden arms reached upward, clawing into the jagged rocks. Each movement was slow, his wooden body groaning with fatigue, but he pressed on. Behind him, the slope began to crumble, chunks of stone tumbling into the raging water. His goofy slouch straightened under the weight of urgency. Higher and higher he climbed, rainwater streaming down his polished wooden surface. Suddenly the rock he gripped snapped free. He gasped, his droopy eyes widening in horror as he and the puppy slid backward. The puppy yelped, claws digging into his wooden shoulder. At the last moment, his other hand caught a sturdy branch sticking out of the slope. Dangling above the roaring river, he held the puppy tightly, eyebrows furrowed in desperate focus. His expressive mouth opened in a strained cry. With a final surge of strength, he hauled them both upward onto firmer ground. They collapsed on a grassy ledge, soaked and shaking. For now they had escaped the river's revenge, but the storm was not yet over. The wooden creature dragged himself onto the grassy ledge, panting heavily. His goofy body sagged, water dripping from his rounded wooden head. The puppy lay beside him, shivering violently, its tiny whimpers lost in the storm. He knew the puppy wouldn't survive long if they stayed exposed. His droopy eyes scanned the surroundings desperately. Lightning flashed, revealing a dark hollow beneath a cluster of roots further uphill. Shelter. Gathering his strength, he scooped the puppy into his long wooden arms and trudged uphill. His oversized feet squelched in the mud, every step a battle against exhaustion. His eyebrows bent low in determination, his mouth set in a firm line. Finally he ducked into the hollow, the storm muffled instantly. The puppy whimpered softly as he laid it gently on the dry soil. He leaned over it, his droopy eyes filled with tenderness. "You're safe now," he whispered, stroking its wet fur with his cartoonish fingers. The pup's shivering slowed as it pressed closer to him, finding warmth against his polished wooden chest. The creature's goofy posture softened, his mouth curving into a tired but genuine smile. Outside, the storm raged on, but within the shelter, hope began to flicker. The wooden creature knew they had survived the worst, but dawn had not yet. The storm howled outside the hollow, wind shrieking like a chorus of ghosts. The wooden creature sat with his back against the roots, the puppy nestled in his arms. His goofy posture sagged with fatigue, but his droopy eyes stayed open, watching over the pup. The puppy stirred occasionally, whining softly in its sleep. Each time, he patted its back gently, humming a low tune through his expressive mouth. He had no idea where the melody came from, perhaps from the grain lines etched deep within his wooden body. Hours dragged by, the storm refusing to relent. Water dripped from the hollow ceiling, forming small puddles around his oversized feet. His eyebrows lifted slightly as he noticed the puppy stirring again, its eyes fluttering open. "Weak but alive." He smiled softly, his goofy face brightening. "You're stronger than you look," he whispered. The puppy licked his wooden fingers in response, its trust shining brighter than the lightning outside. As dawn approached, the storm finally began to weaken. The river's roar softened to a steady rush, and the wind quieted to a whisper. Exhaustion overcame him at last, his droopy eyes closing as he drifted into a light, peaceful sleep. When the wooden creature awoke, sunlight streamed weakly through the roots. The storm had passed. His goofy posture stretched, creaking slightly as droplets glistened along his polished wooden surface. The puppy yawned beside him, shaking off the night's fear. His droopy eyes sparkled with relief. Together they crawled out of the hollow, greeted by the fresh smell of rain-soaked earth. The river still rushed, but calmer now. Trees glistened, birds cautiously emerged, and the valley seemed reborn. The puppy barked happily, its tail wagging weakly. The wooden creature chuckled, his expressive mouth curving into a wide grin. "Yes, we made it." He lifted the puppy onto his shoulder, his oversized feet trudging through the soft, wet grass. Every step away from the river felt like victory. His goofy body straightened proudly for the first time, no longer weighed by fear. Together they had survived the storm. Together they would face whatever came next. As the day warmed, the wooden creature wandered further from the river, the puppy perched happily in his arms. His goofy posture had changed, now it carried pride. His droopy eyes, once melancholic, glowed with quiet joy. They stopped by a meadow, the grass sparkling with dew. The puppy bounded around, splashing through puddles, barking playfully. The wooden creature watched with a tender smile, his thick eyebrows lifting with amusement. When the puppy tired, it returned to him, curling up against his oversized wooden foot. He bent down, scooping it gently into his long arms. His expressive mouth whispered softly, "You're mine now, and I'm yours." The bond forged in the storm was unbreakable. No raging river, no howling wind, no fury of nature could separate them. They were family now, a wooden protector and his loyal puppy. Together they walked into the horizon, the valley glowing with the promise of new adventures.